Who would have thought the end of the world would be so peaceful? I wish Crane could have seen this.
Pretty much since the moment Techland dropped the Reason trailer, and we heard this nice little Easter egg where the narrator called out Kyle Crane by name, people have been losing their shit, and it just brought up many more questions. Are we gonna see any returning characters from the original game after all? Did the devs lie to us? Did whoever's saying this know Crane personally? And are we gonna see that person in the game and explain what happened to him? It just leads down a whole entirely different rabbit hole. So in today's video, what I wanted to do is obviously there's no way to 100% fully confirm who's narrating this, not until the game comes out, and when it does come out I have an idea as to how we can figure out who that narrator is. But as of right now, I want to tackle the two names that keep popping up as to who name dropped Kyle Crane, and we'll see if we can try to connect a few dots here. But before we do that, let's take a quick look as to what the devs have said themselves in regards to returning characters in Dying Light 2.
So the question is, will some characters from DL1 be returning in this game too? And if so, then can you name a few, or maybe it's confidential? So Dying Light 2 takes place in a completely different place and quite a lot of years after the events of the first one. So for this reason, you will not encounter any returning characters from the first game.
I believe it's this clip that people are referencing in terms of Techland denying that any characters from the original game will be returning. But in the same clip, they also say that there's plenty of references to the original characters, especially for those curious enough to look thoroughly in this world to try and find those references. But with that in mind, let's tackle the first name, actually the main name that keeps popping up as to who the narrator is, and that's Spike. Spike is an NPC from Dying Light 1. Your main interaction with him is at the very beginning of the game. He's the one that sets up all the card traps and all the light traps that you can eventually use in the slums and in Old Town. And then from there he progresses to be the quartermaster in Old Town. He's also a quartermaster in the slums, which I found interesting because you basically have two in Brecken's Tower. But either way, many people believe it to be Spike. I tried to find some clips that I'll play here where you can hear Spike talk. In the trailer, whoever names dropped Crane seems to be talking rather quietly, a little emotional and reflective, and this is the closest clip I can get to finding Spike speaking in a similar tone.
Who would have thought the end of the world would be so peaceful? I wish Crane could have seen this.
Crane, first of all, you did great out there. From now on, if you need something, come see me. And to start with, here's a UV flashlight and a remote control.
Who would have thought the end of the world would be so peaceful? I wish Crane could have seen this.
All right, shut up and pay attention. There are two types of airdrops. One has food, first aid supplies, survival gear, and such.
Now, while they do sound very similar, their cadence is there. Spike's voice sounds a little bit higher. One could argue that his voice would deepen over time, which is plausible. You know, over time, everyone's voice deepens and changes to a degree, but there's some key things people are missing. One, Iran seems to take place somewhere in the Middle East, while Villador appears to take place somewhere in Europe. And there's a 20-year gap between both games. Well, it's perfectly plausible for Spike to find a way out of the city of Haran. I mean, he was able to find a way from the slums to Old Town. What are the odds that he would move from one continent to another and we just run into him 20 years later? We know Villador is potentially one of the last bastions of humanity, the last city still standing, but in a world this harsh, this physically demanding, you really think he can afford a journey like that? Throw on top of the fact we know Spike is 49 years old, and we know this via an NPC in the first game. He tells us he's 49 years old and his real name is Rudolph.
My name is Haluk. Hey, so you've met Spike, haven't you? He's sort of our resident mad scientist.
Yeah, I know Spike.
Yes, Spike will tell you a lot of things. But there's also some things he won't tell you. Like his real name. It's Rudolph. Or that his birthday is coming up soon. He'll be 50. It doesn't look that old, does he?
49 years old. You know, call me crazy, but I don't think in a world that's this harsh, we'll be running into a 69 to 70-year-old Spike in the city of Villador. I just don't see that happening. If it is Spike, potentially, it would make more sense that while we don't see him physically, this could very well be a recorder or an audio file playing. They've mentioned, again, there's plenty of references in the world to the previous characters, and they've also mentioned that there's many GRE quarantine posts and hospitals that we can explore. Maybe in one of those hospitals we come across this specific recorder recorder, and it might be Spike. Techland also said that Haran was quarantined. It would make sense that if Spike did find a way out of the city of Haran, he was captured by the GRE, maybe brought to the city of Villador that way, or some secret program to try and keep survivors quiet about what they seen within Haran, and outside these cities, Spike was just reflecting on his friend Kyle. But the chances of us seeing him physically in game, I highly doubt it. It would make more sense for this to be some type of audio recorder if it is Spike, and it would mean that way potentially we'll hear more audio recordings of other characters. Maybe we'll hear one of Dr. Camden or Lena or even Brecken. To this day, I feel like Brecken had a criminally short appearance in the campaign, and the fact they didn't mention him in the following was pretty disappointing. But the other name that was brought up was Matt. This is a character we see, I think, the most of in the 2019 gameplay trailer. I actually seen a comment bring up the possibility of Matt and Spike being the same person, but if Spike really was 49 in the original game, then there's obviously a big age difference, and Matt already appears to be middle-aged himself, so that wouldn't make much sense. Personally, I think the narrator sounds much more like Matt than Spike, but then that generates so many other questions. How would he know who Crane is? What would his affiliation with Crane be? And if it is Matt, how in the hell would Techland even tie in that affiliation? But maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me play some audio clips of Matt's voice and tell me what you think.
Who would have thought the end of the world would be so peaceful? I wish Crane could have seen this.
Those fucking renegades shot him. Where were you?
The time for talk is over. Frank's dead.
Stand.
Don't listen. Turn on the pump. For fuck's sake. He killed Frank.
The only thing that immediately jumps out at me to explain if it is Matt that brought up Crane by name is maybe Matt, prior to the fall of civilization, was a GRE agent. I don't know if it would really be Matt would be close friends with Crane, because that would kind of bring up, again, a little bit of that age difference. I was thinking more along the lines that maybe Matt was a fresh face on the case of the events of Haran, and maybe he was following what happened to Crane very closely. And if it's him referencing Kyle by name, it's not so much a sadness of a loss of a friend, just the tragedy of the end of a life in general. Maybe Crane was just around the corner of surviving and actually making it alive out of the walls of Haran, and something happened that unfortunately just didn't allow him to die outside the city's walls. But let me know what you think. I'm kind of staying away from the following DLC as of now, because now I don't want to talk too much on following DLC because we still don't know what the hell ending is canon. I could have sworn at one point Techland actually confirmed Kyle turning being canon, and then during the Ask Me Anythings, if that is true and I'm remembering correctly, then they ended up going back and saying, well, we really don't know now. Which, if that's the case, then potentially the following might not even be canon at all, and it just might have been an extra area for us to fuck around in. But in the meantime, let me know what you think in terms of whether this is Spike, if it's Matt, if it's someone else. If it is Spike, I'm throwing it out now. It's got to do with some type of audio recording. I don't expect us to physically see anyone in game from the original, unless the developers just completely put their foot in their mouth and go back on everything that they've been saying. Which, oh boy, if they do, it's going to be a whole list of things that's going to be hard to follow. But like always, guys, my name is Cynic. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. I try to interact with as many people as I possibly can, and I just want to say a quick thank you for how well the channel's been doing. It seems like a lot of people are excited for Dying Light 2, and I can't wait to see what Techland's got cooking up leading up to that game's launch and all this exciting stuff coming post-launch. But until next time, I'll see y'all later.